you super awesome friends. Today I'm going to show you how to make your own sidewalk chalk. I will admit, it does take a few more supplies than usual, but if you plan ahead and you want to collect things or ask your parents or guardians at home if they can purchase a few items for you to make this project, totally advisable. However, if you want to just watch and see how something can be made, that is a great way too. So these are the little kind of chalk pucks that I made, and you can use them outside, you can use them for chalk projects, but the materials that I used were this. Plaster of Paris, which is basically like a powder, a white powder. I used powdered tempera paint, so kind of like if you've pictured anybody do a color run and there's colored chalk flying in the air, it's basically that. So these are the colors that I got, but they also sometimes come in containers like this, and it just looks like a really brightly colored paint, but it's in powder form. And then the last thing that you'll need is water, some mixing bowls, and then something to mold them in. You can even just do it in a little cardboard cup or a toilet paper roll or something that you are going to throw away, but I have these silicone molds that worked really well. So again, a few more materials than usual for what we do, but if you're interested in trying this project, those are the materials that you'd need. So to start art today, we are of course going to begin with our mantra. So let's do it together. Here we go. My mantra: I am positive, I am creative, I am mindful, I am amazing, I am an artist. Okay, let's see how I did it. Okay, like I mentioned, this might get a little bit messy, so you might want to try doing this outside or at least put down some sort of tabletop covering so that you're not making a huge mess everywhere, even though I love messes, but you still have to be a little bit respectful of the space that you're working in. So how we're going to make our chalk today is I'm just going to use the materials that I had and show you how I did it. So really what you're going to do is start with the plaster of Paris. The plaster of Paris is basically like your base. So I'm going to just mix it inside this little mixing cup here and do a few little teaspoons of plaster of Paris. And this is really about the consistency and how you mix it to make it kind of watery. So you'll be able to tell as you mix if it needs a little more of something else. It's not really an exact science. So I'm going to do, I don't know, 3 big heaping teaspoons of the plaster of Paris. Then I'm going to do some powdered tempera paint. So again, if you don't have powdered tempera paint, you can try this with regular colored paint too. It might give you a little bit different consistency, but it's still going to kind of brighten up the chalk so that it's not just white like the plaster of Paris. So I'm mixing these two together. And the fun thing is, if you want to try making your own color and practicing a little bit of color mixing, you could put in another additional powdered tempera to make a new color. For example, if I added a little bit of blue, what would my color turn into? Blue plus yellow equals green, right? It would make more of a green. So now that I've got my powder here, I'm going to add just a splash of water and keep mixing until it becomes more of like kind of a runny paste. So I'm going to give it a little mix and see if I need anything else to kind of even out the texture. So as I'm mixing, it feels like it might be a little bit watery, maybe not. So if it's a little bit too watery, the things that we can add would be just a little bit more powder. Again, this is so different than baking because baking is a very precise art, and this chalk making is a little less precise. So you'll notice I have some kind of dry bits on top here, so I'm going to try to mix to get all those little chunks mixed in, and it feels just a little bit watery here. So now I'm going to go back in and add just a touch more of the plaster of Paris to kind of get it a little bit more, see, messy, to get it a little bit more thick. And then when I feel like it's about the right thickness, so it's kind of like drippy watery, but there's a lot of color and powder, maybe 1 more spoonful of this one. Then I'm going to pour it into my molds. Now, depending on how watery the actual solution is going to determine how long it takes for your chalk to dry. So if it's super wet and watery, you might need to set it outside for a while. If it is gooey, if it is a little bit more thick like a paste, then it'll probably dry a little bit faster. In fact, I'm going to do just a little bit more mixing to get my paste to be a little bit thicker, and then I'll show you how to pour it into the molds. Okay, this is a little closer to the consistency that I want. It's kind of like runny pudding, so it's a little less wet than previously. So as soon as you get it to a good consistency where it's not too thick and drying right away, then you can pour it into your molds. Now, my molds are made from silicone, which means once it dries, and they're just gonna pop right out. But I'm gonna use this kind of pour top here and just fill till it gets to the top.
And then another little trick you can do is when you have your molds filled, then you can give your pan or like container a little bit of a tap, and it's going to give you a flat top. Because right now you'll notice that the chalk is a little bit thick, so it's making kind of this like wiggly poured top. And I want it to be nice and flat so it comes out like a puck. So I'm going to give it a tap. I'm going to fill these last two. And this is also fun too. If you make a lot of colors, you can mix them together. You can do kind of like a marble chalk effect. It gives you a lot more flexibility and creativity because of how you did this. So I'm going to give it like a little tap, a little shake, and you'll see how those chalk pieces kind of sort of flatten themselves out. So now is the waiting game, and I'm going to wait until they are all dry. When the chalk is dry enough, you can just pop them out and you've got some little chalk pucks that you're ready to draw with. The other thing that you can do is if you actually want to paint with the chalk paste when it's kind of this consistency, you can always just paint with it then, and then it will dry on your sidewalk. So that's also an option if you decide you'd rather paint sidewalk chalk instead of just creating the little pucks. But these are just obviously going to last longer than the paint since the paint will eventually dry. So you have to kind of decide what makes the most sense for you. Let's check out this one. I'm going to put it right in between here in the rainbow. Still a little bit wet, but it works awesomely.
There you have it, friends, sidewalk chalk. Obviously, you'd probably use your sidewalk chalk outside, but you can still use it to make art on paper. And that's what is fun about sidewalk chalk, is that you can use it in lots of different ways. So I know it had a few more complicated materials than usual, but if you want to give it a try, I would encourage it. So let's end today with a little meditation. We're just going to do one deep breath in and one deep breath out. You can close your eyes or keep them open for this, but remember, try to make it as slow and big as possible. One hand on your chest, one hand on your belly. Here we go. I always have to practice doing that one because I usually take a breath in really fast and then I'm stuck. So it's a great way to meditate and kind of use your breathing as a way to focus yourself for the rest of the day. Remember, you are amazing, you are strong, you are resilient, and I love you. We will see you next time.